I'm passing out the sign-up sheet. Are you guys going to go then?
We're recording. That sounds reasonable. So I just want to, before we get to the town hall part, I want to welcome you all here, and Alec Hallow is our secretary, and she, if you want to speak and you want to give your name, she has a list, and we're basically here to listen. We just had our Commission on Disability meeting, and we saved our announcements till now, and I guess one of the announcements I wanted to make was that we're really sorry to say that GJ, the wife of Helen, just passed, and she was somebody who came to our meetings and was important to us, and Helen's very important to us. And we want her to feel supported and comforted, and that we're really feeling for you at this time. So that's, I think, our very important announcement. So we'll miss GJ. And we have a little card.
Thanks. I've been privileged to do the work I've been doing behind the scenes because of my wife. And so in memoriam, that's why I'm here, to move our work forward.
Thank you. I'm glad you were able to come. So if there's just brief announcements, that's great. And then we're really excited to have speakers. Oh, and then our person from City of Berkeley, who I'm going to let introduce herself because you know your title better, but it's Jennifer from Department of Emergency Services.
Mm-hmm. We can do announcements first if you want.
Okay, I think that'd be really nice. And then, oh yes, okay. I'm gonna just step aside and let you announce yourselves, and then yeah.
No, I have an actual announcement. This
Yes,
is for the commission and for everybody who's here.
Yes.
And I'm just taking a few minutes to get actually settled into a seat, but I will.
Do you want me to go ahead while she's getting ready?
Do I need to use the microphone?
Everybody who's speaking, I assume, would go over there.
Okay.
So since we're videotaping, and it's
right, we're going
that way.
And if we're launching into starting to speak now, is there anyone here who would like to use an assisted listening device? Anyone? Okay, if anybody changes their mind, let me know. We're ready to go. All right? Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hazel Weiss. I'm the newly re-elected Vice Chair of the Commission on Disability. And also for purposes of information, I work for Alameda County Behavioral Health Care Services. So my announcement is to let everyone know that I brought materials that are relevant to all of us. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and there's certainly overlap between the work of our commission and the work of the Commission on Mental Health. So there's green ribbons, which are for Mental Health Awareness Month in May. Please help yourself. And there's a little bit of informational materials there and stickers. Please help yourself and tell other people. And if anybody wanted to have more of those items to distribute anywhere, you could get back through, I believe, Ella. She would forward the email to me, and I can get the person who does it to give you whatever you might need. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight at our town hall meeting. My name is Christine Schwartz, and I'm actually on the Alameda County DD Council as well as the City of Berkeley Commission on Disability, and I go to various commissions here in Berkeley because I think they're very important. And I'm part of Berkeley CERT, because I believe in safety. Anyhow, I wanted to make a couple of announcements. So, besides tonight, we have the Wellness in a Sea of Change celebration to celebrate our Mental Health Month, May. And that is on Saturday, May 6th, if you're interested, at North Berkeley Senior Center, 1901 Hearst Avenue, from 1 to 4. And, you know, housing is very important. I'm part of Friends of Adeline as well. They're a great group. Sunday, May 7th, from 2 to 5, at South Berkeley Community Church, Fairview and Ellis Street. And if you have a pencil and paper, if you're interested, there's flyers over there. But 510-338-7843. Housing is a very big issue here for everyone. Who's going to talk about the healthcare thing? They should call the Congress. You want to do that?
Can we let Jennifer do the emergency?
I'm so sorry. Yes, go ahead. Here's Jennifer.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to join you here. I know many of you know me at this point. I've been around for a few years and I've spoken with this commission several times. My name is Jennifer Lazo, and I'm an emergency services coordinator with the City of Berkeley's Office of Emergency Services. What that actually means is I work for the fire department. I don't put out fires. I do get to, however, walk around looking important with a clipboard. So really, it sort of works out in my favor. I'm pretty pleased with it. But the other thing I get to do is come here and speak to various groups like the Commission on Disability and the audience members today about disaster preparedness. What I'm here today to do is not to give you the full speech. If you haven't heard it from me before, contact me, I'll tell you how after, and we can make that happen. But what I would like to do is share with you some resources we have for personal preparedness, and also a very quick update on what the city is doing in regards to making sure the city is ready to work with various people with disabilities in the event of a disaster. So those are the quick things I'm going to try and cover in like 5 minutes. We'll see how I do. I tend to talk a lot. So first we'll do the personal preparedness bit. I brought 2 separate flyers with me today. One of them is about emergency alerting. This emergency alerting flyer discusses the various ways the city will communicate during an emergency. And we've been working really hard to make sure we use many different modes of communication. So some of those modes include radio, the TV script on the bottom. By the way, I know that that doesn't always work because a lot of times closed captioning will interfere with it. But also, I think the most important service to sign up for here in Berkeley is our emergency notification system. This is the way we're able to push out messages during an emergency. And here's the big news on that. In the next few months, we are switching systems.
Oh boy.
So, it has not happened yet. If you are signed up for the Berkeley emergency notification system, you're still good. But we are going to be switching to a system that will incorporate the entire county. The big benefit of that switch is that it will mean that if you work in Oakland and live in Berkeley, or you have a loved one on the island of Alameda and you're here in Berkeley, you can get notifications about those various sites all through the same system. You just have to sign up once, and you choose which addresses you want to care about. That new system is called AC Alert. It stands for Alameda County Alert. If you search for that in Google, you will find it. It's not in this flyer yet because it's not live yet here in Berkeley. You're not actively using it yet. The good news is, if you use our current system, the Berkeley Emergency Notification System, you will get a message right when we're about to switch saying, now is the time to sign up for the new system. Okay, so if you're already signed up, you will receive that information. However, please just keep an eye out for, we're going to do a big push on this information, and you're one of the groups I wanted to make sure was sort of ready for it. This system is pretty darn good. It's not perfect. I know it sends TTY messages, it sends text messages, it sends emails, it sends voice messages. So it has a variety of modes of sending messages. However, what I do not know is quite how good the sign-up website is. Our vendor assured us it was going to be fine for screen readers. I never quite trust that. So the one thing to know for that is if you call me, and my phone number is on pretty much all the flyers you'll see here, I will sign you up for the system. I also have the TTY number that is on all of these is at my desk. So whichever system you need to sign up for it, I'm here to help you with that. I'm here to help the community with it. This is the most effective way to get information during an emergency, and we really encourage people to sign up for that system. So that's what's in this flyer. It's over there. My second flyer is a basic personal preparedness one, and it's got a series of images on it. Those images are reminders of what to do in an earthquake when the shaking is happening, no matter what your specific situation is. I'm going to give the very quick version of this here. The major goal is not to try to move far while the shaking is happening. So if you're already, say, seated in a chair or seated in a wheelchair, stay in that chair, do whatever you can best to cover your head, lock the wheels if you're using a walker or a wheelchair, and wait out the shaking. So that's really the big goal, because the most dangerous thing to do during an earthquake is move somewhere else. That's making yourself a big moving target that more things can hit. Buildings are not our big problems here. Things inside of buildings are. So there's actually a really cool graphic showing all sorts of situations. So for someone who uses a cane, someone who uses a walker, uses a wheelchair, or someone who doesn't necessarily need those assistive devices, what to do. That's on the front. I like having this on. It's a good thing to put, in your workplace or where you spend a lot of time, right on the refrigerator so people look at it. On the back are the essential disaster kit supplies. This is a starter kit. It's the basic things: food, water, a flashlight, just reminders, sort of the start of a shopping list. Most importantly, though, on the bottom of this is my contact information. So if you, first of all, have any questions about any of this stuff, secondly, want to have me come and present to any group, or if you want to have any concerns about any programs or things that you've seen in our disaster preparedness that your concerns may not be as accessible as they should be, please reach out to me. That is what it's my job to go and work on. So that's my personal preparedness stuff. Now I'm going to dive a little bit into what the city is doing in regards to this. Quick reminder for those of you who've seen me before, the Berkeley Emergency Accessible Community Organizations Network, BEACON, sorry, that's a really long acronym, continues to function really effectively. It brings together a lot of organizations that work with people with disabilities and with seniors in Berkeley, and we meet right here, which is why I know this room very well. So we meet in this facility. There's actually a different mix every time of who comes, and we try to do planning and information sharing throughout the community. We are actually hosting some exciting preparedness events here as well. So in July and in October, in the early afternoon, right in this room, we are going to have 2 different workshops that are meant to be group discussions where everybody can learn from each other. The first one is going to be on emergency communication and on figuring out ways to talk both as organizations and as individuals. The second one is going to be based on what the people in the first one actually want to talk about. My goal here is to get topics that are useful for people that they actually want to have done. So the next one that's coming up is July 25th at 3:30 p.m. right here. So finally, really big picture stuff. That was sort of my microcosm stuff, but this is the last bit, is big picture. We have been doing a lot in the city to make sure that as we revise and rework on plans, we include accessibility intrinsically in those plans. So we're not doing some separate annex for people with disabilities. It is being built into every plan that we write. We're excited to say that our new emergency operations plan was adopted by City Council last week. Now, don't be too worried about not having seen it. It's probably the most boring plan that we create. What it is a framework for how we organize everything. It's not a step-by-step how we do anything. So it's sort of, here's who's in charge, here's what each department's responsibilities are, here's what roles we have to fill. So it doesn't get into the weeds. However, we've got some plans coming up that do get into those details. So as we start developing those plans, we're going to come back to groups like the Commission on Disability to ask you, what we need to work on. For example, the one that's the furthest is our mass care and shelter annex. And our goal in Berkeley is to never never force a person to ask, will this shelter be able to accommodate me? We want every shelter that we open to be ready and fully functional to meet whatever needs a person has. Now, it might not be the second they walk into the door, but have a very quick way to address any needs someone has through our partnerships with organizations like Easy Does It to be able to address people's needs of the disaster. We've been doing a lot of planning and training and exercising in that regard. And sheltering is the focus of a lot of our activities right now. So those are some big picture things. I'll say I've had a wonderful experience here in Berkeley. I've recently presented to the Berkeley Chinese Community Church, which had a group of 46 seniors who had a lot of excellent questions. I also, one of my favorite presentations I've done recently were a series of 2 at the East Bay Center for the Blind. We had about 45 people at each of those presentations at their quarterly meetings, and we talked about fire safety in the first one and earthquakes in the second. And we really got a great response. People, I think, really appreciated that. And please, I want to go out more. I think I've gotten to a lot of places, but I know there are places I haven't been. So again, my contact information, pretty much any contact information on an OES form goes to me because I'm the person who listens to my messages. So if you contact me, I will be happy to work with you on this. And thank you again for inviting me today. I can answer a few quick questions, and then this is a forum for all the people who showed up, so I want to make sure they have a chance to talk. Any questions?
Wondering in terms of your upcoming meetings or whatnot, do you have a newsletter or something that somebody else might be able to help you get the word out? And if I emailed you, would you be able to send me research, or other people won't have? Okay.
A flyer that will, and it just text blurb, so that it's without any formatting that you can use wherever you wish.
Paste, and
precisely.
Excellent.
That's my goal.
Thank
So
you.
please share broadly and widely. We've also, one thing I wanted to mention, we have had, I think, 5 CERT classes in this room now here as well. They've been wonderful. I've learned a lot. I think the audiences have learned a lot. We've had everyone from folks who work and spend time on this campus here to the college students who need to fit a requirement in their sorority or fraternity. And having all of that group together, working on disaster preparedness and working with each other, really builds the resilience of our communities. So thank you to the Ed Roberts campus, first of all, for hosting us a lot. I just send them a date and they say yes. So they're wonderful. But to everyone who's been willing to work with me through the growing pains of this program as we've learned new things. Any other questions I can answer?
I need to note that several members of this commission participated in the CERT Academy, actually a few years back when it was newer. But the training site over at the Firehouse on Cedar Street is accessible to some people. However, it's very difficult for many people with a whole wide range of mobility or other things to handle. And the commission actually provided a lot of feedback on that site was very difficult. So having the CERT training now at this site is a huge difference, and I don't know that we can do anything to actually help spread the word to the community, because some people may not have gone because they didn't think they'd be okay there, but that the site is very accessible, so it's very rewarding.
We're definitely working to make it more and more accessible as we go to different sites. One of the best things for me has having instructors who have never necessarily worked with someone specifically with a disability and me being able to mentor them into that a little bit so that they realize, oh, there are a lot of easy ways to make this completely effective. If they've planned for it a little bit in advance, then suddenly they do a much better job. And so we've been working on that as well. So again, please contact me with questions, comments, concerns. I'm happy to hear them. My information's in the back, and I
Can
will
you just give it for the video?
My basic information for the video is 510-981-5514. That's my phone number, and my email address. I'm actually going to give you the OES email address. I promise I'm the one who checks it daily. OES@cityofberkeley.info. So that's the easier one to remember. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Can I ask if anyone knows where the sign-in sheet went?
I never even saw it.
Ah, thank you. And there was a pen.
Oh, here it is.
Somebody
I think we were
need
assuming we didn't sign it unless we wanted
Is
to
he
speak.
good as
Yeah.
translator? Or you translator?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are we waiting for another speaker?
I thought you were speaking.
Me too.
You're
I don't
interpreting.
know, I'm an
Okay,
interpreter.
is somebody, because our sign-up list went away, is somebody here to speak? And we really want to hear from, I mean, that's what we're here for, is not to beat out, but to hear from you guys. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
You look like you want to speak, so. And you're welcome to say your name.
What?
You're welcome to say your name, but come on up, please.
Sure. So I'm going to put it right here. My name is Ronnie Wolmitsky, and I have a son who is just turned 27 years old, and he has an Angelman syndrome. I don't know if you know about Angelman syndrome. Angelman syndrome is a chromosome deletion. It's a genetic disorder, and it's very rare. And most people with Angelman syndrome cannot speak. They are like on a spectrum. They have gross motor, fine motor. They need usually 24/7 help, and for their life. So basically, for the last 27 years, I've been advocating and part of this community of parents and people with developmental intellectual disabilities. And for 27 years, I had a dream, like brewing in my head. The problem is a lot of people that cannot speak, they depend on one-on-one all the time, they are very lonely, secluded, they don't have an ability to choose where to go, what to do, they're constantly dependent on a caregiver to take them, to move them, to do anything that they do. As they grow up, if they're lucky to have a place to live, they live with a caregiver, a place here and a place there, and basically they go maybe to the day program, but then they come to their own place and they're lonely. Really terrible, and also very difficult for their parents or the families, because the families, they're also kind of isolated and don't have much of a life, so it's very difficult. So all those years I've been dreaming of creating a community, basically creating a place that people with intellectual developmental disabilities can live in a community, but also be independent, not like a group home or basically institution or something like that, but live in a community, with the community, supported by the community, and be part of the community, and also represent themselves to the community, because I've been taking my son to concerts, to public events, to all over the place, but I don't see people like my son, because the families are just keeping them inside. It's very difficult for the family. A lot of them is embarrassed or just they're tired, so they're basically all isolated. So that's my dream always was, to create a community. I'm an architect, and I've done some projects in Berkeley. One of the last project was the one on Telegraph across from Whole Foods. So that I designed this building. So I've always had a dream to basically create a project where I can have units in the building, not in one floor, but segregate throughout the whole project, for people with intellectual developmental disabilities to live with the community, and hopefully people will be the regular community, live within the same building, and maybe also parents live in this, or families live in the same, so everybody create a circle of community, basically community inside a community, and being able to be living in middle of the community, so they can experience the life of go to the university, or just take a bus, or just be and also make it easier for the caregivers. The caregivers is another element of the community of people with intellectual disabilities, because a lot of them are burned out. You know, there's one person to one person, and it's very difficult. So that's another thing that I wanted to create, the community, so the caregivers can also create a community for themselves, and basically that. So that was almost my dream, and opportunity came, and I decided to take like time off and not to do any other project, but to do one project. And I purchased a site on San Pablo in Blake. It's 2527 San Pablo. And I went to the city, and under the state density bonus, I asked for the 11 below market units. So that's 6 very low and 5 low income units to be set aside for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So this is my program. So basically the idea is to have those units separate, spread throughout the whole project. I would like to have some kind of support within the building, so the management of the building will create gathering and social activity and social interaction to help connect them to other services and opportunities, and basically have just life like anybody else within the community. So last year, as I started to work with the city, I had a meeting with the neighbors. Presented to the neighbors. About 30 people came, neighbors, to the meeting. And usually in Berkeley, neighbors are like, as I started to explain my concept, within like 5 minutes, it was like everybody was completely in support. It was just amazing. The whole community, all the people that lived around, that came to the meeting, they say, how can we help? We want to help. We want to do it. And for me, it was incredible, because you see a lot of places where people want to do a project like this, and everybody's worried about not in my backyard and maybe whatever. But it was a great community support. And then, the other overall, disability organizations within Berkeley and Alameda County also want to support. And now I'm outreaching more families in Berkeley that has people with intellectual development disabilities to, tell them about this opportunity. And, so this is my goal. So this is the project I would like to do. And within the project, I'm going to have, a community room. I'm going to have 2 separate roof area that will be also opportunity for an outdoor barbecuing and getting together. There's a room down next to the lobby also for people to get together. And the idea is for the families or other friends to come to live in the same project and to provide eyes. Because, I have a son with developmental disabilities, go through the, caregiver. Something happens to my son, nobody can explain what happened. He gets injured, nobody can explain what happened. And, if I can watch right now, but later on I'm going to be old, other people, it's very difficult. And it's like among the parents or families of people with disabilities say, we want to create something so we can die in peace. And, this is really, if you know anybody, any family that has a person with developmental and intellectual disability, they will tell you individually exactly the same thing that I'm saying, because this is the biggest worry. People, they don't care about money, they don't care about anything else. All they want is they want community, they need community, and they need support. So basically this is my project. I just wanted to share with you, because when I went to San Francisco and I go to different community, it's a hidden disability. Within the disability community, it's a hidden group of people that don't speak. The parents are tired, and whenever there are things, nobody represents them. Mm-hmm. So if you see here or there, it is just so. My goal is also to create this as a center for advocacy for this disability. But not only this disability, generally, I would like to bring the people with intellectual disability, but the whole community of disability into the forefront, so people will see and experience, and that's basically my goal.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is Shira.
I know Shira, actually.
We should talk after, because I would like to do the same thing for people with disabilities of all kinds. My name is Shira Leader. Can we do that?
This is my project. This is my goal and what I want to do, but you know, we can share information and
Yeah.
build all kind of different, yeah. I'm for,
So what's the best way to contact you? So we can set up a time?
I haven't,
do you remember me?
no, I don't,
Did you ever go to Camp Newman?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, she went to Camp Newman, I remember her.
A long time ago.
Yes,
It was a long time ago.
I know, a long time ago, right, I remember her. Camp Newman is a Jewish Federation camp near Calistoga for families that have children with disabilities. And for 10, 12 years ago, or 15 years ago, I remember her.
So I'd like to put in your contact number. Can I do that?
Yes, 415.
Yeah.
I can give you also the email.
That's my card.
Okay, so I can, easier, I will email you?
Yeah, that would be the best.
Yes, that would be the best.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. But this is our life. Our life is to advocate. And the other thing is, once a project like this is being done, it's a legacy project. So it will, we, myself, my wife, and our son, we have nobody beyond us to do anything. So a project like this will remain as part of the community because this is what we want to do. And hopefully, other families will see it an opportunity in something like this and can do similar projects.
So is it, part of the building is specially set aside, you're gonna have certain units, but it's also, it's a big building.
The market rate unit, so idea is that the market rate unit will basically help finance and subsidize and finance services, because I'm doing it on my own. I'm not Zuckerberg or, you know, a very wealthy family, and what I'm thinking about is it's like when you build it, they will come. So you do it, I have an idea, and my goal is basically to create euphoria. I believe that there are people that would like to live in a building like this,
Yes.
so they rent instead of going to
Yes.
one apartment will go to a cause, and if it goes to a cause, it's a community, and more things can happen, and there are a lot of things that can happen, with this kind of spirit. So
Do you have contact information you'd like to provide?
yeah,
This is an
I put it on my email on
do you
the
want to do it live though for she's filming?
Ronny, RONY, ROL, architect, the number 2, at parkbell.net.
I just wanted to make a comment to you, and I understand what you're talking about of caregivers. In all circumstances, caregivers often don't have the support that they need with their loved ones or family members. And we're also wanted to also make another comment is, I do have hope because I've already seen stuff like this happening in the senior citizen area where they're developing living complexes where people live amongst the seniors, and there's data showing that this is a phenomenal way to live. It solves that isolation problem that you're talking about. So I'm totally into seeing what you're doing
We are going to
and I know it will because there's that in the media it's being talked about.
I know, because I'm going to be old, and I will, instead of going to an assisted living, I can live in a community.
That's what I'm saying.
And I can live close to people. So
That's exactly
that's
what I heard you say, and
multi-generational
that's
thing.
exactly what we need to have in our communities.
Right.
So this is wonderful to have you come and talk
Yeah.
about.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask, if you could, at whatever point you're ready to actually ask to be on the agenda for a regular commission meeting and do a fuller presentation of your concept, at the point that you might be ready to let us know more details about it, and if it's something that ends up that we could or would want to support in a way. Our commission, we advise City Council. That's all we can do. But we are very open and wanting to hear about, and we have some things that we're sponsoring that actually might fit very well with what you're talking about. So I'm hoping that you could come and be on our agenda at a future with some more detail and
I would
more
love to get
time.
your support. I think that what I just say, this is basically it. It's a concept. You know, what I'm doing is, I'm an architect, I've done projects, I worked closely with developers, so I've seen how they work. I was very envious at the opportunities that I didn't have because, you know, you do work and they sell or they rent or whatever it is, and I say, how can I get the community of people with intellectual development into this thing in the middle of the city, in a nice area with a nice apartment, and how can I get a community for caregivers? And that's what I'm doing. So this is the concept. If you want support. That's basically, you know, the name of the project, and I'm willing. Any questions you have or any more information, I'm glad to give you.
So I
Come
think
and
what,
speak, interact with the community. That's what we're saying.
Which I do.
Yeah, you have it.
Yeah.
Come
Right.
and connect.
Yeah.
Any questions? It's a fascinating idea. I have quite a few questions. I guess one is, you mentioned the number of very low income and low income units that would be set aside for folks with disabilities. Could you, if you could repeat the number, I want to get an idea of how many opportunities.
Six very low
Uh-huh.
and 5 low.
5 low. Okay. Okay. And that's great. My other question is, I guess for the market rate units, I assume anyone with or without a disability who wants to pay market rate rent is eligible for them. My question is, what about a prospective tenant, and I assume people are renting, not owning, who says, I just like the location of the unit, I don't want to be a helpful pair of eyes, I don't really want anything to do with my neighbors, I just want to rent from you, I guess. Is that a problem, or, okay. And then my third question, not my last question, but my last question for tonight is, the person who is going to be on site either delivering or coordinating services, who would pay them? Who pays their paycheck?
Building.
You. Okay. So, okay.
Basically, you know, okay, so the way I'm looking at it right now, you know, my goal is to build. So I'm looking at it like a, you know, regular project, a regular apartment building with a twist of special need people living in this building. And because I'm going to have special need people living in the building, the manager or the manager, you know, maybe husband or wife of the management, has to be somebody that understands what it's about. Mm-hmm. So it might be like a social worker or somebody that will, you know, has to have, you know, sensitivity and understanding and eyes. And there's going to be another support. I was talking to East Bay Housing Consortium. Mm-hmm. There's a guy named Darren.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him about it, and basically, you know, to get like a contract with him, like a part-time contract, mm-hmm. so he can actually assist me because he has a lot of experience. I don't have a lot of experience. So how to build an extra services, so basically you watch people with this kind of population, they have the what's called IPP, mm-hmm. You know, plan, and you know, but the problem is a lot of them has like supported living agencies and other things, but the way the structure works, all those supported, they don't watch. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's an agency that will provide a caregiver, but they'll come maybe once every 3 months. Mm-hmm. So they are not watching it. So my goal is to have in the building people that will come and pay attention on a daily basis or whatever it is. And this is what the community and the support basically to create some kind of circles mm-hmm. and eyes that basically people watch for each other. And, you know, hopefully, like for instance, I have a laundry room. I don't have specifically laundry in each apartment. I have a laundry room. The laundry room is on the roof, right next to this barbecue area, which is a nice place, right? So people come and they do their laundry, and then they can go to the roof and hang around, and then they'll see other people. Mm-hmm. So everything is geared for community. Everything is geared for people to say hi to each other and to talk to each other, okay. and know each other. So, okay.
Can I just ask where you are? You have the land?
Yeah, I have the land, and I already went through the design review. Design review was approved. They liked the design. They approved the design. The neighbors like it.
Those are good.
So I have support letters from the neighbors. I have support letters from all the other different organizations. Now the next step is to go to zoning adjustment board and present it to them, and hopefully they'll approve it.
And then, do you have the money to build it too?
Yeah, I will have the money. I mean, I don't have the money right now,
But that's part
when
of
I
the
get the entitlement,
Then you can
I
do
can,
that.
well, I will have to have people to invest with me. But I'm convinced I will be able to do it. I already see it built. So I'm optimistic.
And I have another question.
Sure.
I know some people that might help with the funding.
Sure, great. I'll keep in touch with you.
So we can talk.
Okay.
Are you familiar with East Bay Innovations?
No.
They are a service provider that focuses on folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They do a lot of vendor work for Regional Center, and they would love your vision, and I'll bet they have all kinds of ideas they'd want to give you if you were interested in
I'm always
stuff.
interested. I'm just like, basically I'm in school now.
Okay.
Because I have one part that I can do, but there's so many other parts to make it successful.
Darren from the Housing
Yeah.
Consortium can hook you up with.
Right.
He works with East Bay Innovations a lot, and they put like on-site service coordinators that live there and stuff. Similar ideas, and they'd be very much thinking like you do. Yeah.
Berkeley is the place. If any place, Berkeley is the place for something like this, right?
Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
So, if anybody's interested, you can email me, and if you want, like I was talking to Christine, I can give you the name and email of the planner for the project. If you want to write a letter of support for the concept, it will be appreciated, because it's not really that I need it, but it's really important for me to show community support, because this is how people talk about it and connect.
So, as Hazel mentioned, if you want to come talk to us at a certain point as an organization, the function of our commission is certain limited things, but obviously your kind of project falls under our kind of area of interest. So stay in touch with Ella, please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have Judith.
I just as soon stay here.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
And we can bring you a mic. And I don't really care about having the camera, actually.
Oh, okay. I won't turn it then. I'll just put it on your
And
desk.
if you can hear me without the mic, that's even better. No? Okay. So, I'm here tonight, and I'm substituting in, so I didn't plan to be doing this. So know that I'm an inexperienced speaker, and I'm slightly inexperienced at what I'm doing, but I want to let you know what's going on. I'm here from Justice for Kaylee Moore and Berkeley Cop Watch, and I have these handouts.
What did you say?
Justice for Kaylee Moore and Berkeley Cop Watch. And if you don't know those organizations, Berkeley Cop Watch is a Berkeley institution. It's about 25 years old, and they basically try to monitor the police arrests and take videos of them and take notes on them and make sure that they're okay arrests. Make sure that there's nothing going on that shouldn't be going on. Make sure that they're a clean bus, basically. And Justice for Kayla Moore is an offshoot of that group because within the last 4 years, and here's the pamphlet on it, and I'm glad to hand it out to whoever wants it or whoever I can give it to. She was killed. She was a trans African American woman who was mentally disabled with schizophrenia, and she moved into an apartment with a new roommate, and the new roommate didn't know the drill, and they called 911. Well, if you've got a family with a disability or someone in the neighborhood with a disability, particularly a mental disability, who might go off their meds or act out or seem a little strange, and you call 911, you probably all know, I know, that things can go very badly. And in fact, they can go seriously badly. And in this case, Kayla was killed. And 6 cops went on top of her. And there are specific procedures for the put out by the American Disabilities, by the ADA title, I think Title III, for handling mental disabilities, and those procedures weren't followed. So there's a court case now and an attempt to try to get some justice for Kayla, and also for all the people really who this has happened to, because it's pretty prevalent. So I'm here just to let you know that's happening, and also to let you know that there are a group of people who are getting together, in fact got together last month, to see if there's some way to find some other model or some other way for first responders for mental health issues. And we had a meeting, and it's across city boundaries. We had people from San Francisco and from Oakland and Berkeley. And we're getting together actually this Saturday at Grassroots House, that's 2022 Blake, to further extend our problem solving, hopefully problem solving around this issue. And that will be a potluck, and it's at 1 to 3. I understand there's a conflict with something else that was announced earlier, but maybe we can send people from one place to the next. And then there's also going to be a follow-up meeting to that on the 5th of May at 7 p.m. at Grassroots House again, potluck I assume. And we're hoping to build, this is going to be a long, long project. This is not going to happen fast. It's going to take a great deal of research and a great deal of support from people and from community to try to get something like this to happen, but we really need it. And you probably know that really if you have someone with a mental one. Try to get somebody to come and network, or get someone from your organizations to come network, and let's see if we can do something better.
I was just going to say that in terms of your research, I do a project called Diverse Disability Media, and it's national. I cover state to international and city information. And often I'm coming across different types of trainings now occurring in the police departments to train the police department how to work better in regards to people with varying disabilities and people with mental illness. So I'm more than happy. I'll give you my card to help. And also any information that you have, not only do I do research, but I put information out in order for the community to read. So part of what I do is to educate with a diverse background of what different people are doing to solve a problem, so that the research is more there for you to figure out what best might fit what you're doing, so you have ideas similar to that.
That
So
would be great, and we'd love to network with you, and I'll talk with you afterwards.
Sure.
It seems to me that that there needs to be some kind of triage that happens, because what happens is that the police come. Is that better? The police come, and they are geared in a different way. They're not geared towards mental health issues, and they have very short trainings. And even if they do have a more significant training, there's still an attitudinal and a training mode that they've gone through that just makes it difficult, and fear. It just makes it difficult for them to be actual responders in certain mental health situations where someone possibly from community or possibly a community triage could happen. We don't know. We don't have the answers, but we know something needs to happen. So we're open for everybody to input into this.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm a disability services specialist with the City of Berkeley, and I'm fairly new. And as a result, I've had conversations with directors in multiple departments to try and figure out who everyone is, and etc. One of the people that I met with early on was the director for Berkeley Mental Health. And one of the things that we discussed at length was the 25-year relationship between Berkeley Mental Health and the police. And the fact that Berkeley Mental Health has 24/7 staffing that is on call to the police, so that the police rely on them continually to come with them to intervene when they know that there are mental health issues. And he seemed very confident that this was a long-standing and a model-type program, and very much ahead of the curve regarding this issue, which is widespread and particularly damaging and has been very high profile. We have the Sheehan case just in the last 5 years. It was a national issue. So how does this jive with that? I mean, if it's going across city lines, you have very different systems set up. And secondly, what would you do to improve on what's happening already with the Berkeley Mental Health and police coordination? How are you talking to Berkeley Mental Health about how you're planning on trying to alter the system?
I believe that's happening, but again, I want to restate that I'm new at this, so I'm not the person to be really speaking to that.
Got it.
But I can say this. This woman was killed 4 years ago in Berkeley. She's dead, and 6 cops piled on top of her. And there was no mental health unit that was called, as far as I know, or if they were there, this still happened. I think that speaks for itself. Now, I think what you're talking about is a mobile unit that does work in certain situations, particularly maybe in situations where they're going to, let's say, units where maybe people from the street are gathering and they go regularly and they're well-known entities. And so they get familiar with the people that are there, and the people that are there get familiar with the mobile units that go, and there's sort of a worked out situation. I understand that does happen. I can't pull up the name of the place.
Yeah,
there's a place down on Adeline that I think that works out.
Yeah,
I'm told works out fairly well.
It's far more extensive than that, though. I would just recommend that you guys definitely contact the director.
I'm sure that they have. I mean, I know that invitations have been extended.
And you have questions behind you.
Okay. And thank you. I mean, I'm sorry I don't know more, but
No, it's
I'm
fine.
here.
I was just interested. Yeah,
Somebody
right behind you. I was going to say, maybe it's changed, but I remember hearing or reading that the mobile crisis unit is a 24-hour. And so there's gaps, and that and there's evenings is when they're not working, which is often when people are having mental health breakdowns, they can't connect with their support services. So this is a thing that really has, Killamore is not the first mentally disabled person who's been killed in an interaction with the police in Berkeley. So there are big gaps that are happening, even if there has been this, even with a relationship with Berkeley Mental Health. And I think the cutbacks to mental health that are happening all around affect those. And also, someone's been trained, but then when did the last training happen? I know in my job, we have emergency, we have to be trained for CPR every 2 years. So if you're somebody, we had a training 5 years ago, and they didn't train everybody. They're only training some. There's new people coming in. There's going to be people who don't have the knowledge or don't have the experience, even if they have the knowledge. And fear is a factor in this, I believe. So there's more that needs to be done, and we can't just go with, there's a relationship, so how can this be happening?
Yes, and the other thing I do know is that fairly often when the mobile unit gets called, the police get there first, or just like almost immediately afterwards, and then it becomes a police situation, not just a mobile unit situation. So I appreciate you filling in on that. Thank you so much.
I have a quick question. The flyer about Kayla Moore says that instead of offering assistance and support, police then immediately tried to arrest her on a false and unconfirmed warrant. I was just wondering, what's a false and unconfirmed warrant? I don't know that.
As far as I know, it was a warrant that was in a name that was the same name, but it wasn't her.
in a different city.
Oh, an outstanding warrant, and it was, they had,
It wasn't her,
and
and they didn't confirm the warrant.
Okay.
And a key issue on this also was that there are prescribed procedures under the ADA Act. If I didn't say this before, I want to reiterate it if I did. Procedures for taking care of these kinds of situations for people with disabilities and mental disabilities in terms of how you handle the binding, how you handle the taking to the ambulance, all of those medical procedures and transport procedures, and these procedures were not followed in the Kalamore case. And as Robin has said, there have been other deaths. This is not the only one. Be careful who you call.
Just getting away from the getting more theoretical. The Sheehan case out of San Francisco, if had it gone to the Supreme Court, one of the key issues was, does the ADA and the requirement that you seek reasonable accommodations that goes along with the ADA, does the ADA even apply to policing? And there's a circuit split on that issue. It's a fascinating issue, and I know a lot of disability groups were encouraging the district attorney of San Francisco, don't try to take it up to the Supreme Court. And I was actually I was thinking it should go to San Francisco, not San Francisco, the Supreme Court. Why did I say San Francisco? Because I think it's a no-brainer that yes, the ADA does apply to policing. Because the argument is policing a service or a program or activity the kind that the ADA was contemplating? And the circuits who don't think it is are wrong. I mean,
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I mean, okay. The reasoning that supports some circuits' conclusion that the ADA doesn't apply is that nobody wants to be arrested, nobody seeks out to be arrested. That's not a good thing that you're trying to get, and the ADA was to make sure you get. But they're wrong. If you are drunk and you're walking off the edge of a pier, whether you know it at the time or not, the police are doing you a service by saving you and arresting you. It is a service, and I think if this issue ever went to the Supreme Court, it would be a good thing for the disability community, because the Supreme Court, I trust, will do the same thing and say that yes, it is a service, so the ADA applies to police work, and then not just, the advocates who were encouraging the district attorney in San Francisco not to appeal to the Supreme Court, what they were basically saying, whether they meant to or not, is they're saying, we got it good here in the Ninth Circuit because the Ninth Circuit's sane, so don't rock the boat. I think you need to take it to the Supreme Court so not only Ninth Circuit residents get to enjoy the sanity of that Ninth Circuit's decision that the ADA does apply to police work, but the whole country can enjoy that. And I think we should be pushing this issue, not hiding from it or scared of it.
Thank you. And I'd like to talk to you later.
So I just wanted to jump in here, and I'm one of these people that's pattern orientated with my research, but also in the news currently is corporal punishment in schools, and that's also another Supreme Court issue where parents, there's I can't remember right now, but can opt out of it with students, specific persons with disabilities. I think, too, if you cross-reference some of that information in terms of what he's speaking about here, that you might get some further information about ADA and criminal justice system. Not just that, there's jails, too. Sorry if my head's all over the planet, but I research all this stuff. So there is 3 entities between school, corporal punishment, persons with disabilities, also our criminal justice system and prison system currently, and this topic here of policing. There's some cross-information in those 3 topics that would provide some assistance and help in terms of ascertaining a direction that I think would be appropriate with some further information behind.
Great. Let's try to network.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have somebody else speaking?
Yeah,
Eric? Oh, he's out in the hallway.
Shall I go get him?
He's talking to an architect. He's talking to an architect.
We've got somebody
with
who has
this
another
project.
speaker.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Just doing it. Okay.
So all of the ribbons, I actually brought them for the commissioners as well as for anybody in the audience. I'm going to get them so I can read them. Especially given the topic that we've just been discussing.
Eric, if you're ready, we're good too.
Good evening. My name is Eric Maketon. I'm the other architect in the room. And we were outside sort of talking about this project that he's working on, and figured out that we met about 10 years ago. So one of the things that he said is that there are a lot of people with especially intellectual, developmental disabilities who are hidden. And I feel like that's the case with everybody with disabilities.
Yes.
Right. And so my concern is that I hear from people all the time that as I'm trying to advocate greater accessibility in the public realm, that people will say, well, you know, there's just not that many people in wheelchairs or with walkers or who need these accommodations that you're talking about. You know, an example would be the number of parking spaces that are set aside as blue spaces, the percentage in a parking lot. Well, if you're a sort of regular or plain person, as I say, then you might think that, oh, all these spaces are always empty. But if you're somebody with a disability who's driving, as I do, you often find that those spaces are full. And you have to circle around and around, waiting for one to open or park, you know, outside the lot because the other spaces are too narrow. So there's a myriad of examples like that in the public realm. And people think that, well, we're not seeing that many people with disabilities out in the world, and so why is it important? Well, they're not seeing the people who are not going out into the world because the world is not accommodating them. And that's the key. And so I just wanted to come tonight and say that I've been talking with the commission about trying to have Berkeley create a universal design ordinance. And the idea is that the state building code and the ADA are these sort of minimum standards that were negotiated, you know, in the 80s and the 90s largely between building owners and you know, developers on the one hand and people with disabilities on the other. So, you know, it's obvious who would get the upper hand in that discussion and that debate. And so a lot of the things that we have, whether it's the slope of a ramp or the grippability of handrails or the parking spaces or the size of the accessible restroom stall or how many there are in a multi-user restroom, well, all of those things are compromises and they're not ideal universal design ideas. So what I'd like to do is to help Berkeley, and I'm working with Alameda on this as well and talking to other cities, is to help sort of up the ante on all of these elements and make a requirement that's instituted by the city, probably by the planning department, is the easiest avenue, and create a set of rules that people who are building new buildings that are, it's called public accommodation, so a public building in Berkeley, have to follow in order to improve the accessibility. And then hopefully another aspect of that would be that there would be a set of rules that the city itself would follow in all of its work in the public realm, in parks, in city buildings, and so forth. And these could, you know, these could up the ante even more, and the city could lead by example with those projects, and then be able to turn to the developers who will inevitably be complaining and say, well, look, we're able to do it. It's not that big a deal, and we're asking even less of you. So anyway, that's what I'm advocating, and I want to thank you for letting me come here tonight. And I would just say that anybody here who's interested in that idea, hopefully you'll come to some of the other commission meetings and talk.
Can you give your name and your contact information for the videos that are running?
Right.
Thank you.
So Eric Mikiten, ERICKMIKITEN, and my firm is Mikiten Architecture, and my phone number is 510-540-7111, and Eric, ERICK, at MikitenArch.com, MikitenArch.com. Thank you.
Eric?
Oh, she's got a question for you.
Questions? Yeah. I just wanted to ask you if FCCB, the church that burnt down in Berkeley, had opportunity to connect with you. They said that they did, but I wanted to make sure.
If who?
First Congregational Church of Berkeley they're interested in universal design. They're talking about affordable housing. I gave you their information and I gave them your information. They're hoping to get a presentation maybe from you, just letting you know.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So, I guess universal design is very much on our interests in our work plan. But I think we're a little flummoxed as to how to move forward with that. So, we'll be very excited to hear how things are going with Alameda, and any help you can give us with figuring out how to best implement that in Berkeley. I think that we'd be very open to that.
Good. Well, as we make some progress in Alameda, I'll definitely come back to the commission and kind of talk about the path that we're following. Their path was already, and I've mentioned this to you guys before, but they were already underway, and they started this about 5 or 6 years ago, and then it kind of paused and then fell apart, and their commission on disability kind of shifted and then brought it back up again just recently. So it's gone through different iterations, and it's not very aggressive, but it's a starting place. And most of all, I see it as a framework that can be used as an example of how to sort of, maybe Trojan horse is too strong a term, but it's sort of that concept. How do you bring it in and not have all of the red tape that's maybe associated with when we try to do something like this at the state level, or to change the ADA, because that's such a big, difficult, clumsy public process that has so many dozens and dozens of institutional players that you just kind of can't move. You're in a straitjacket. So my idea is that sort of shifting down to the local level, that it might be easier to have even a handful of cities around the Bay Area or California to just do this at their local level by planning department decree. And at that point, there's a set of examples that then at the state level, people can see, oh, this is not that big a deal. It does actually work, and it does make a difference. And I think once people see that it makes a difference, then the people who are the naysayers and who are afraid of it because of the taking of square footage, the tiny little bit of square footage it will take from the developers, they'll see, oh, I didn't really need to worry about that after all. And that's really what happened in a lot of ways with the ADA in the 90s. I went to, before the ADA, I was just starting out in the field. I just graduated, and I went to one of the sort of symposiums that was getting public comment from people all over the country. So I went to one in San Francisco, and I saw this argument, playing out before me. And I realized that it was going to take a lot to make any sort of change. A few years later, as I was working with housing developers, they would reveal that, well, yeah, all right, it's not such a big deal. So I think that is going to happen again once we up the ante, as I said, and get slightly better requirements.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hazel.
Hi, I'm Hazel Weiss, and I'm a member of the commission, but I want to speak as a resident of Berkeley about an issue that I hope that the commission, so I'm talking to myself to some degree, but I'm a person, maybe obviously, I don't know. It depends. Some days people think I have a disability, other days they don't. Some people see my service dog and they think, oh, she has a disability, and other people think I'm cheating because if I have the dog and not the walker, then they think maybe it's just a fake service dog. So, but I do have mobility disabilities. I have multiple sclerosis. One of the things that concerns me in Berkeley has to do with the obstacles and the barriers and safety issues that are related to the things in the public domain that are under the jurisdiction or the authorization of the city to do or to take care of or to address or to look at, and the accessibility of that. So needed to give that broad definition, but I finally have a really concrete example of that, and it just happened last night. I went over to 9th Street at Gilman, and there was an event there, and it's a shopping area. There's restaurants, people are there. It's very popular, and it's often hard to find a place to park. And I was on 9th Street, and I saw a parking place right there, 9th Street, right near Gilman. I said, oh, wonderful, there's a vacant space. I pulled right in it, and I get out of the car, and I go to walk around the other side, first to get my dog out, and then also I have to get my walker out at the back of the van. And when I got there, and I'm going to ask my partner, who's also here tonight, perhaps for some help in describing this if I need it, because I don't know the right terminology. There's a bioswale, which Martha and I have learned about related to the T1 bond measure information that's been put in there in a way, so the short statement, I can't get from the car to the sidewalk without walking down the street, in the street, past two other vehicles, into a driveway. Because of the way this bioswale is there, so there's lower barriers, and then there's this area of sort of dirt, which I think is the bioswale part. And there's some trees actually planted in there too. And then there's another, it's like another curb almost, a barrier. So that if you were to go up to the sidewalk, you'd be about this high. The bioswale's here. You're up here. So even if you were able to step from the curb in the street onto the bioswale over the small one, then you would have to step up at least 12 inches to actually get and step over it onto the sidewalk. And I was obviously very upset, taken aback. I don't walk so well. I lose my balance. I'm very unsteady. It's not safe for me to be walking in the street. My dog helps me walk, but it's not really safe for me to have him in the street either. So then I put him closer to the car to protect him. So I'm even a little further on the street. And here I am with my walker walking through the street. And maybe there's another answer. Maybe there's another piece of information I don't have. But my first thought was, whose idea was this? Clearly the city put it in. It's just, I believe it's a city, sidewalk, curb, bioswale, whatever. I could be wrong. And that's the kind of example of when somebody like the Commission on Disability says, we'd like City Council to come and ask us ask the other departments, for example, does this have any impact on accessibility? So if it is the city, and if it's not, I really need to know, and I need to find out, and I believe the way is to go through you to make a request or complaint or something as a citizen. To find out, did anybody think about a person with a disability perhaps, whether it was temporary or permanent, who was going to park in that space, and how they would get from their car to wherever they were going. I was going to Farmburger Restaurant safely, and it was just incredibly, and when I pulled into the space, I'm not looking to see, it's a space, it's a parking space. And at that point, I was, oh my God, if I don't get out and figure this out now, I'm going to be late for my event. So that's an example where both principles of universal design had someone incorporated universal design into that project. I mean, I sort of looked at it, my partner looked at it, and we thought, well, you know, it could be a bioswale, but they could do this, or they could put that, and you know, we're not architects and we're not builders, but did anybody think about it? Did anybody ask anybody who either is a person with a disability or knows something about it before that design went in place? So this is an opportunity, because we're having our community forum, for me to really go on about it, so I will another minute, that it's such a clear example to me of, it's not obvious, it's not included, whether, and this is not just the city of Berkeley, I love Berkeley, but it's not automatic, it's not in the plans, it's not in the design, and it's probably there for some wonderful reason related to the bioswale and the water and the environment and the street, and that's all wonderful. At the same time, I started to say, maybe I need to just get right back in my car and go find another parking space, and there really wasn't any. And so that's not equal access for me. That means that was not equal access for me to park my car in it wasn't a blue space, just regular parking space. So I guess anybody parking there would go through the same thing that I went through. And I use that as the example to ask the commission, from my role as a resident, as a person with a disability, to redouble our efforts, or the efforts of the commission, on universal design and more the acknowledgement and attention to access for everybody before projects are done on the part of the, because we're in Berkeley, so it's our city.
Did you take a photo?
All that stuff, and it was dark when I.
Disabilities hidden, so we need to do something. City of Berkeley has 311. Go back to that place, take a photo, contact the City of Berkeley. And if we start doing that in our community as different changes are taking place, it is going to give the numbers to the persons with disabilities who are not having the access. So it does provide us another way, this trickle-up theory, to provide the data so that when we pursue something to be done, or the commission, like you're talking about, to be able to be more accessed on these topics. So it is up to us to utilize the services available to get our, in the entertainment industry, our butts in the seats to be heard in terms of lack of access. So 311 Berkeley is what you utilize to call for any kind of complaint. I do it all the time when the timing is not correct on crosswalks, or if there's an issue in regards to that I'm affected by, and then share it. So share it with your friends. 311, make your complaint, take a picture, make yourself heard.
So I have a question to that, based on the reports I get from a lot of people. Have you gotten responses? Has somebody fixed the problem? Has somebody addressed the issue?
On Shattuck Avenue, one of the lights was fixed. Yes, there was a response, and I know that was a little bit of a difficult area. I do get good response when I do call, and I make a complaint. I'm open with my disability too. I let them know I'm a person with a visual impairment. Here's what the issue is. I also have MS myself, like yourself, so it takes a little bit longer sometimes on certain days to cross the street because of the muscle weakness. And sometimes the timing is so off that I can't even get there, and I'm there with a clump of senior citizens having the same issue. So I also try to let them know there's other people here having the same issue. I know that sometimes helps, but I think if we utilize that service more, we'll be able to be heard and counted, for sure, so that when we do want to make a change, have the city listen to us in terms of the numbers. Our commission itself has had that with trying to be seen more in the parking space issue, because we do have an interesting way of how we are counted. So we need to make a voice so that they know we are there. And that's the same if you cannot find parking. If you're noticing you're driving around in circles, report that, because off-site parking and different things are being changed. This is going to cause more issue. They need to know the numbers and the correct numbers. Sharon.
Well, this is why
This is why I brought up
the 311,
the 311,
which my cell phone number.
which is on my cell phone number.
No,
No, with her council member.
It's my council member.
because every time I have a phone,
Because every time I have a problem,
it's so hard to take pictures by myself.
it's very difficult for me to take pictures by myself.
And right now, the freaky answer,
Right now, the freaky,
no, right
right
now,
The street address?
the free answer. And I have only complaints about it because people don't understand me over the phone.
because of the free access, people don't understand me over the phone.
So, and then the email is not working because
Then the email is not working
because I have to write down all the addresses
because I have to write down all the different addresses.
and pull it up. So I have to hire my helpers to go with me.
I need helpers to go with me.
And that's the money for my own pocket.
So that's extra money out of my own pocket.
And I have for a volunteer.
I asked for
A volunteer.
a volunteer.
No,
A volunteer.
you have to go with me. But that's my issue with the 311.
But that's my issue with 311.
Give me a call. I'll go help you. I'll volunteer. Take
All right.
care of it.
All right.
I guess that's one of the things that comes up with the sidewalk safety thing. It's sort of like it seems
Can you
kind
raise
of
your voice just a little bit?
okay, sorry. I think one of the things that comes up with sidewalk safety is this idea that it turns the person with the issue into the person who has to report it to get the action. As puts us in the position of having to be the police of the sidewalk in order to get the action taken, which is a lot. And in terms of the city side, I'm wondering if there's like a way that on the is there a city app where where Shira could just as she travels along push the button so that it locates the site of the obstacle. If somebody could make it really.
There was a 311 app. It was accessible though, and
Or
I just,
I can text message.
the 311, but that doesn't work for you.
But I can text message the 311.
But that doesn't work for you.
But that doesn't work because you have to give a
You
have to give a phone call.
Oh, to get 311.
Yeah, as a disability services specialist, and because I manage disability compliance, that's an interesting concept, and it's one that should be available. So that's the kind of things that we're looking at. What do we need to do with the current transition planning that we want to do that was perhaps not really on the radar when they did other iterations? earlier iterations, or what can we do differently this time if there was technology that wasn't workable that was tried before. I will say that for the sidewalks in this city, there's a reason you guys just passed a $100 million bond. I mean, you are so backlogged on infrastructure. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of sidewalks, issues that they want to take care of, that they are trying to take care of every single day. They're out working on sidewalks. And then they work on the sidewalks and then people complain because there's too much work on the sidewalks. It's really difficult to keep up with it. There are also issues to do with the fact that homeowners have a proportional responsibility to fix their sidewalks. In fact, in most places, they have full responsibility to fix the sidewalks in front of them. Berkeley goes halvesies with them and will help to repair the sidewalk if they will work on repairing the sidewalk, and that just, people don't want to do it. The other issue is that, they are often responding to, sort of hot spots of trying to deal with places that are significant safety issues. And working on those becomes a priority, even if there have been other complaints, because they don't rise to the level of the safety threat that another area rises to the level of. So there's a lot of prioritizing they have to do across an enormous number of sidewalk complaints in a city that, has a big heart and puts a lot of money into a lot of programs, but infrastructure has suffered terribly. And, this is going to be an ongoing issue. So I think the need for some sort of interface that is accessible for 311 is going to be very important, because this issue isn't going to go away. And this work is going to be being done even under the bond for many, many, many years. So I really appreciate that, and I think it's important. And, people can also, contact me directly, though that's not that much more helpful, right, than emailing them or calling them. But if you just feel like, you're not being heard or you're not hearing back, you're welcome to contact me as well. Obviously, you are, of course, Shira, but anyone is as well. Yes? Go ahead.
I just wanted to jump, just in case, because I know you're new too. About a year and a half or 2 years ago, there was an app that somebody created that was not accessible, but I tested a little bit, and it was a 311 app, City of Berkeley. When we brought it up at the meeting, but we couldn't backtrack as to who created that and what was the purpose. But I just wanted to say that there was a 311 app that I did test. It had accessibility issues, but there might be some way, when you're talking about better communications or applications, to maybe revisit that, if you could find the history of that, because there was something, I believe it was for both operating systems on iPhones that might be of help. I'll try to go back to my stuff to see if I could give you time relevance for that, but I believe maybe it was a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I brought that up at one of our meetings because I was curious as to who developed it and who we might be able to talk to, because there were some accessible issues on it.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
And that might be another.
And we have
somebody
communication
from the
with
city to come talk to the commission about the sidewalk safety stuff and the 311 response process, because I think that this is one of those ones that comes up again and again, and it's really important for mobility and.
We have a question.
We do, and we have another speaker. So, yeah. No?
I just want to say a word on this drive as well. I am Sam Wiley. I worked for the city of Berkeley 39 years, and
I did.
39 years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's it.
There we
go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I worked at Berkeley 39 years, and about 8 years ago, when this concept came to be, Berkeley was a leader in that. I mean, I was around when they put the one in on California Street and in San Pablo Park, and also, so they've been up on it, and I think they got them right most of the time. But the one I saw last night was definitely is a hazard for a person with disability, or even if you don't have one. Because when you step out the car, you gotta, like you say, you gotta step down and you get out and you could fall and hurt yourself. And then when you get to, you gotta step up about this far. So it's not done well. And going back a little bit, I conclude with, in eight years ago, I took my, when they would start putting them in, they rebuilt the McDonald on Harrison Street in San Pablo, and they put one in there. And I took my crew, we went to break, and one of my crew members fell in some of the same situation, just like she explained, fell in there, and we took him to the hospital. He was on workers' comp for a week or more, and Berkeley went to McDonald, and McDonald compensated the city of Berkeley and put a fence around that rice well. If you go there and see it, it's still up. So I think Berkeley have done a good job on it, but the situation what we saw the other night, it need to be looked at closer.
When I go home, I'm Googling bioswale.
Yeah, right. It was supposed to figure out that.
I don't even know. I can't imagine what it is. And how a fence around it would make it safer. I can't.
Okay. So what it was is that, like last night.
The microphone so everybody can hear you.
Okay, so you know when you step out the car, a regular car, and the sidewalk is there where you have to step up a little bit.
On the passenger side, step on the curb, right?
Yeah, on the passenger side. So here, when you open the door and you get out and you go to turn, you're gonna drop down this far. It's no room when you got to step up on the curve, and then you're going down, and then you walk like 4 steps here. Now you got to walk over a barrier to get on the sidewalk.
So it's
And
like kind of drainage thing,
like,
right?
yeah, well, it's a drainage thing.
It's a drainage.
Well, only thing
It's a
that
special
It's a
drainage
grate. It's a metal
ditch.
grate.
No, it's not the case. No. Down in,
don't have it.
see, on the sidewalk, what they do is they got holes every so often. So when it rains, it's designed for the water to run in this area.
Yeah.
Just kind of plain, not maybe a little plants, and go in the sewer. But on this one, it should be like you step on the curve, then you step on the.
What about doing 311 on Pinterest?
Okay.
I mean, not Pinterest or.
And there's many of them.
So
There's other.
I get it. Okay. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Wow.
Interesting idea.
So
I thought this was made out of shrubs.
Oh, no,
it's
no.
bio. But, okay.
So
now
what
I
they-
get it. Now I know.
So what they did at McDonald's,
Yes.
instead of taking it out, they just designed a fence around it. So when you get out your car, you got to walk around it. So they said, we won't take it out, we just put up a fence.
Okay.
So I just think they need to look at that one. But Berkeley have been on top of it, and I was around when they first started.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess what strikes me about all this is that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for explaining it. Things work and sometimes things don't work. And that's about what happens with systems. So sidewalks and mental health have something in common. People drop through the cracks everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
You have something to say?
Yes. I wanted to mention an idea maybe we can get on our commission's agenda and our plan that we were recently looking at. And this is for the more vulnerable people with disabilities. Maybe they're considered gravely disabled on conservatorships or people who need the 24-hour supervision, however you can imagine, because there's various types of disabilities. Sorry, I'm trying to talk to everybody, but everybody's spread out. I only have 2 eyes, so.
Play to the camera.
Yeah. Thank you. In terms of the people with disabilities who are vulnerable, who can get lost and need the supervision, and actually have gone missing, I know I've experienced that with people in my family, and they've shown up in various places, luckily alive and well. That there be a register system with the City of Berkeley Police Department, so that, and some cities have done that, where they can have a bio on the specific person if they like to participate, not to force you into it. But it's mostly for people, it's not a repeat offender thing, it's a profile. A profile. But you know, people do get lost, and you know, it can be a scary place. And you know, as we all know, there's sex trafficking and all that goes on. And I'm a big person on safety, and so I thought I would mention that and see what the commission thinks. And of course, I think I mentioned affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing. Okay, for people with disabilities. Thank you. I had to get that out. And I think we have a Disability Awareness Day that we passed, but I wanted to know if we can do a type of celebration surrounding people with disabilities and bringing attention to the various disabilities that people have, not negatively, but positively, like we have the Mental Health Day.
I'm looking at that T-shirt. Yeah.
Be your own normal. I love it too. Yeah, I admired it.
Copyrighted.
Okay. Let's see. I know there's probably more, but I've taken up your time, so thank you so much, Christine Schwartz, Commission on Disability. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other? I guess the comment on the wandering individuals. I'm sure there's an answer to that. What Berkeley Police?
What did you say?
So Christine was saying people who are prone to get lost, some sort of voluntary registry, and I'm sure that City of Berkeley Police probably has a response to that.
Yeah,
and it's such a nice specific.
It is. It's just a great
solvable
idea.
thing.
Christine always has such good ideas. I think it's a really nice concept, and you know, I would be interested in talking to them and seeing if they have something like that already. As I said, you know, I've talked with Berkeley Mental Health from their side about how they work with the police department and their partnerships, but talking to the police directly simply about what do you have internally, you know, to help people be recovered when they know that they tend toward wandering, or they have dementia, or they've gotten lost in the past and they don't want to have that experience again. I know that there are laws disallowing the city from collecting rosters of citizens that have disabilities, but if people were doing this voluntarily, I don't know that it would be objectionable. So that's something I can look into and get back to you, and get back to the commission as a whole.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to say I think there's something like that for school-age kids that you can get your kids fingerprinted and
a recent picture, fingerprints. Yeah, that's true.
There's something familiar about that
with children,
concept.
Yeah.
With children.
I have young kids. Yes. Been down that.
So maybe we just get could we just make a police department inquiry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that would be again, that's you just get an answer on that one.
Yeah.
About your celebration of and disability awareness. So part of that, just to say that the subcommittee of the Peace and Justice Commission, which is the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, of which the Commission on Disability is a joint member of that subcommittee, and Helen, Shira, and I have been the representatives. That's another one that, as Eric pointed out, sometimes things take a really long time. You can't just do it right away. But I did want to say that that's one of the agenda items of that CRPD subcommittee, having a Berkeley-focused conference forum, and nobody's actually named it yet, around and about disability and awareness. That's one piece, so that there's something we can take forward. The other piece is that we have in the past, there's a Disability Awareness Month. There's the anniversary of the American Disabilities Act, and when we prepare ahead of time, we have gone to council, and council has issued proclamations about events or acknowledgments, or so the ceremonial functions. So we could. I agree with you to follow up on that, and it's not that huge or difficult to do, to create some awareness, and then the level to which we go from there, the level to which the city can issue press releases or whatever, or any of us can do any more, but we can do that, and I'm glad that you brought it back to our minds.
Might I say you could utilize our wonderful Berkeley Community Media Center here, and utilize the services, and not only do you have the staff there that are better trained in with working with persons with disabilities, I go in there and provide my services for free to anyone who needs them, if you want to create communications that are accessible. So there is access to ways of bringing people together and utilizing our community media center locally to reach out and have a celebration every day on your program about disability and diversity.
Thank you.
Shira?
I would like to say something.
I would like to say something.
As a citizen of Berkeley.
As a citizen of Berkeley,
Well, when I went to the top number that we talked about a lot about the website.
I talked to my council member last week, and we talked a lot about the website.
We updated.
Having it re-updated.
And I don't find it very acceptable.
I don't find it very accessible.
I would like to talk to somebody about how to make it better.
I would like to talk to somebody about how to make it better.
WIA. WC3. Talk to me and I can help you.
You mean you want to give your ideas to the city? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear what you have to say, and I'm also being encouraged to talk to the people who are doing the website overhaul, because I need to move many things and change many things and update many things that I've inherited. So I would love to be able to kind of put what you have to say in there too, and call a meeting with the person who's heading up the overhaul and get all that, in front of them. So that would be great. And I know Helen has a lot of ideas, I'm sure, as well, about the website.
I could help you with giving you some information. I belong to the World Wide Web Consortium. I help with getting out information on accessibility tools for them. If you Google me, you'll see that.
Yeah,
so there are free means to also help the city to start to learn a bit more of what they can do, what they currently have, and also connect with the WCAG and all that stuff that's up there, because it's there's lots of iOS issues, and I know that, but would give you a good baseline or standard baseline, and also would include some wonderful universal design ways so that the website itself is more navigational.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely great. I mean, they have, a basic checkpoint that you have to go through to make sure that they're, can be plugged into by screen readers. and that, you know, those sorts of baseline requirements are there, but the sophistication level is, you know, always open to going up. And, you know, they're interested in listening. I haven't had anyone say no to anything I've suggested thus far. I mean, it's
great.
coming from a background where I was doing, you know, ADA civil rights issue work. I'm constantly surprised to get yeses, and I've gotten so many yeses from this administration. So, you know, bring me ideas, and I have an expectation that we'll continue to successfully be able to plug in and increase sophistication levels.
Yeah. Could you, I think, blow your mind up if you want, meet with me. Yeah, I mean, in a way, but that's good information.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it might be nice for maybe the three of you to meet. It's not a Brown Act violation, and then come back to the, you know, I mean, I think we all have input, but I think it's something that's, you've certainly brought it up before, and you've heard it, I've heard it from you before, too.
Yeah, information and communication with the technology is important. If it's anything to you, I worked with the executive offices with the Obama administration, and they even were having a hard time with the different things, but still providing feedback. And the other thing that I do is I provide feedback that actually helps the person behind it in the city understand, because really the protocols aren't quite there yet. We haven't, we've initiated some of them, but not all of them. There's varying issues, but there's a standard way to actually create something that's more accessible and user-friendly to diverse populations of persons with disabilities. I don't look at something from just my disability, never have. And in terms of that, the more we improve, the better, because information technology right now is where we are at. Communication is utmost important, and if you want to be able to start ascertaining from the community what the issues are, the information has to be clear on our site. And just for me, I could open up one page of the Berkeley website, and I'm all it could be firmed up just on a basic standard navigational purposes. So if you started there, that would be the way to go.
So just to acknowledge, I think, our commission, that Helen is an incredible expert national resource on all this. So, however, I think she can be a part of it, or we can encourage that to happen, would be quite amazing.
So we're at 9 o'clock now, and we do need people to help stay and put everything up. Christine and I set up together. I think Christine's going to say one more thing, maybe.
Yeah, just one really quick thing.
We'll need to vote to conclude.
Oh, thank you.
And Amon has a test tomorrow.
Oh,
good luck, Amon, and good luck with sleeping tonight, too. This is Christine Schwartz again. Just two more quick things. Part of Berkeley Police Department and all police agencies, they have to take the post test. And I was wondering if we can put in their training parts on how to see all of the agendas that they put forward each time, but some of them are like 500 plus annotated pages. And I was wondering, that must be so difficult if it's difficult for me, for people with disabilities. Can we please universalize it? We're talking about that.
Accessible web.
Yeah, but
I will say that they've just passed an internal procedure requiring now that there will be PowerPoint presentations, and the PowerPoint presentation model that we're preparing is to be best practice guidelines for people who are text challenged or have vision involvement. So we are definitely looking to, and it's, you know, try to stick to 6 slides, try to stick to 5 lines, so that there will be summaries that are more plain English and also less challenging for vision and text impaired.
Wonderful, thank you.
So look forward to that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yes.
So I move that, first of all, I thank everyone who was here and is here, and I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Is that a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
listening.
everyone.
So remember, we do have 2 rooms, even though it's closed down.